What happens when one of Hollywood's biggest legends walks onto a morning show set and refuses to play by the rules? What you're about to witness is one of the most intense moments in live television history. Kevin Costner, the man who's never been afraid to speak his mind, came face to face with Michael Strahan on Good Morning America. And what started as a routine interview quickly spiraled into something nobody saw coming. The tension was palpable. The exchanges were heated, and by the end, Costner delivered a shutdown so powerful that it left Strahan speechless and the entire studio in shock. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me what you think about celebrities who refuse to back down. Now, let's dive into what happened. The Good Morning America studio was buzzing with its usual morning energy. Michael Strahan sat behind the desk, his signature smile plastered across his face as the cameras prepared to go live. Kevin Costner was the guest of honor, there to promote his latest project, a Western series that had been generating massive buzz in the entertainment industry. The producers were excited. This was supposed to be a feel-good interview, the kind that gets clips shared across social media and keeps viewers engaged through the commercial breaks. As the segment began, Strahan leaned forward with his professional charm dialed up to maximum. "Kevin Costner, welcome back to Good Morning America. It's always a pleasure to have you here." Costner nodded, settling into his chair with the casual confidence of someone who had done thousands of interviews. "Thanks for having me, Michael. So, let's talk about this new series," Strahan continued, glancing at his notes. "You're returning to the Western genre, which obviously you have a legendary history with, but some critics are saying this feels like you're retreading old ground."
What do you say to that?
There was a slight pause. Costner's expression shifted just barely, but enough that anyone paying attention would notice. Retreading old ground. That's an interesting way to frame it. Strahan smiled, seemingly unaware of the subtle change in temperature. "Well, you've done Dances with Wolves. You've done Open Range. Yellowstone became this massive phenomenon. Some people are wondering if you're just going back to the same well." Costner leaned back in his chair, his jaw tightening slightly. "Michael, let me ask you something. When you played football, did you only throw one kind of pass, or did you adjust based on what the defense was giving you?" Strahan's smile faltered for just a second. "Well, I was a defensive end, so I didn't throw passes. But I see what you're getting at. Do you?" Costner's tone wasn't aggressive, but it carried weight. "Because what you just said suggests that you think telling stories about the American West is somehow limiting or repetitive. These stories are about the foundation of this country, about struggle, survival, morality, and what people are willing to sacrifice for something bigger than themselves. So when you reduce that to retreading old ground, you're missing the entire point." The studio audience was quiet now. This wasn't the banter they expected. Strahan shifted in his seat, trying to regain control of the conversation. "I didn't mean to suggest that your work wasn't important, Kevin. I was just, asking the question that some people are asking." "Some people," Costner repeated, his eyes locked on Strahan. "Or the producers who wrote that question on your cards?" Strahan laughed, but it was forced.
Come on now.
"We're just having a conversation here. Are we?" Costner's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. "Because it seems like you're more interested in creating a headline than actually understanding what we're trying to accomplish with this series." "Kevin, that's not fair," Strahan said, his defensive instincts kicking in. "I've been nothing but respectful to you since you walked out here." "Respectful?" Costner's eyebrows raised. "Respectful would be doing your homework before you sit down to interview someone. Respectful would be understanding that just because something is set in the same era doesn't mean it's the same story. You want to talk about respect? Let's talk about how this industry works. Let's talk about how morning shows like this one churn through guests like products on an assembly line, asking surface-level questions designed to get a reaction rather than having an actual meaningful conversation." The tension in the studio was now impossible to ignore. Strahan's co-hosts, sitting off to the side, exchanged uncomfortable glances. The crew behind the cameras stood frozen, unsure whether to cut away or let this play out. This was live television, and there was no safety net. Strahan tried to smile through it, falling back on his media training. I think you might be reading a little too much into a simple question, Kevin. A simple question? Costner said, nodding slowly. You know what? You're right. It was simple. It was lazy. And frankly, Michael, I expected better from you. Excuse me? Strahan's smile was completely gone now. You heard me, Costner said, his voice steady and unwavering. You've been in this business long enough to know better. You've sat in that chair long enough to understand the difference between asking a question that generates engagement and asking a question that actually means something. But instead, you went for the cheap shot. You went for the angle that makes me look like I'm stuck in the past, hoping I get defensive, so you could have your viral moment. Strahan shook his head, clearly frustrated. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Costner challenged. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're more concerned with being the personality than being the journalist. Strahan leaned forward, his voice taking on an edge that viewers rarely heard from him. Kevin, I've interviewed hundreds of people on this show. Presidents, athletes, actors, musicians, and I've always shown respect. But you're sitting here questioning my integrity on live television. I'm questioning your preparation, Costner corrected. There's a difference. And if you're feeling defensive about it, maybe that tells you something. I'm not defensive, Strahan shot back, though his body language suggested otherwise. I'm confused about why you're coming at me so hard over a standard interview question. Costner shook his head slowly. That's the problem right there, Michael. You think it's standard. You think it's acceptable to invite someone onto your show, ask for their time, their energy, their willingness to be vulnerable in front of millions of people, and then hit them with questions that show you haven't even bothered to understand what they're doing. Do you know what this series is about? Do you know what makes it different from anything I've done before? Strahan opened his mouth, then closed it. The pause was telling. That's what I thought, Costner said quietly. You don't know because you didn't ask. You didn't care to find out. You just saw a Western, saw my name, and figured you could coast through this on charm and a teleprompter. That's not true, Strahan insisted. I know about the series. I know it's about a family torn apart by the Civil War, about brothers on opposite sides, about loyalty and betrayal. You read the press release, Costner said flatly. Congratulations. But did you watch any of it? Did you talk to anyone involved? Did you spend even 10 minutes trying to understand why this story matters? Why it's different? Why it needs to be told now? He paused, letting the questions hang in the air. Or did you just show up, expecting me to do all the heavy lifting while you nod and smile and pretend to care? The studio was dead silent now. Even the technical crew had stopped moving. This wasn't just uncomfortable television anymore. This was a masterclass in confrontation, and everyone watching knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. Strahan's jaw clenched. You know what, Kevin? Maybe you're right. Maybe I didn't do as much preparation as I should have, but that doesn't give you the right to come on this show and disrespect me in front of our audience. Disrespect. Costner's voice rose slightly, the first sign of real heat coming through. You want to talk about disrespect? Let me tell you what's disrespectful. What's disrespectful is treating art like it's disposable. What's disrespectful is reducing years of work, hundreds of people's passion and dedication, to a throwaway question designed to fill time between commercials. What's disrespectful is acting like you're doing me a favor by having me here, when the truth is you need content, and I'm just the next warm body to fill your segment.